What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Facade. I'm your host, Gavin J. Gallagher, and on this podcast, I explore the mental and emotional game often playing out subconsciously, both in your mind and the mind of everyone else in the real estate or property investment market. The key to success in this game is to master your mindset and behavior, to take control of your thoughts, your emotions, and most importantly, your ego. Welcome to the show. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. And this week, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk about the psychology of business and investing. And it comes off the back of a meeting that I had today, and we were talking with our agents. And this is in respect to the office portfolio that I look after in East Point. And we were talking with the agents about the current state of the market. And it's, there's no kind of secret that the market is very difficult out there at the moment. And it's not just in, Dublin, but this is kind of across the globe. There is a difficult market in commercial office. A lot of big cities around the world are talking about, millions of square feet just sitting empty at the moment. And there's people looking at the conversion of them to different uses and all of this kind of stuff. So we were chatting about that. And what it kind of occurred to me, isn't it amazing how, people talk about real estate investing, but the reality is that it depends very much on what part of real estate investing you're in. Because on the one hand, if you happen to have an office portfolio, you're going through probably one of the most difficult markets that we've had in the past 20 years, like even potentially even more difficult than 2008. And then at the same time, the residential market is booming away. Prices continue to kind of grow. And isn't it amazing how you can have two markets in the same place? You can have two markets that are so massively sort of different in terms of the experience that the participants are having. And now, having said all that, residential sites are going up. And I was talking about this with my coaching clients and stuff like that. But one of the points that I want to make is when you're getting into any kind of investment business, whether it's real estate or whether it's anything like that, or business for that matter, so much of it is down to psychology. And I think I can remember reading this stat before that it's like business, investing, all of this kind of stuff. It's about 80% psychology, 20% strategy. And so how you think is super, super important. The quality of your thinking and like how things are going, it's really down to how you perceive it. Like if you think that everything is going down the tubes, well then that's probably all you can see. And so your mindset is kind of tilted in that way. If things are going really, really well for you, it's super important to be thinking clearly, because as I've experienced, when things are going really, really well, you can get a kind of complacent and you can start putting your kind of analysis, and you can put lots of different, you can start taking shortcuts. You kind of think that I figured it out, I'm super successful now, this is going to be easy, and so you take shortcuts. And then when things are going really, really bad, it's a very different experience, but the quality of your thought is equally important. Like if you are telling yourself that it's a disaster, that nothing can be done, that we're all going out of business or something like that, that is going to basically freeze you like a deer in the headlights, and you're not going to be able to take any action. So whether the market is doing really, really well, you have to think carefully. When the market is going really badly, you have to think really, really carefully. And so the quality of your thought is so critical. And I can say that having been on both sides of that equation, like both on the highly successful side when everything is going right, quality of your thinking is super important. And then when you're at the bottom, when you're kind of at the lowest low and you've kind of feel like you've lost everything, the quality of your thinking is super, super important. Now, I held a private event. I hosted this event for my accelerator clients there recently enough, and some of you will be aware of these events that I do every kind of 3 or 4 months. and usually take a hotel, a conference room somewhere, and we'll go and invite all my clients and stuff along. And we did it there on Saturday the 1st recently. And I took the clients through this thinking exercise. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that thinking exercise. I think it's going to be useful, some of the insights and stuff from it. But before I do, there was actually something else that I wanted to kind of refer back to, and it's the week before. So the Friday prior to that, I went and I participated in something called a retreat, and most of you will know what a retreat is, or you'll certainly have a kind of a conceptual idea of what a retreat is. And the reason I sort of say that is because the word retreat, it has a certain kind of it depends really, I guess, on your thinking. And this is why I'm talking about thinking today, because I was invited to go on this retreat. And when somebody said to me, would you like to come on this retreat? The word retreat just made me kind of like think twice about it. I was like, I'm not so sure retreat is my kind of a thing. And however, the people that were inviting me were a bunch of chaps that I know from a WhatsApp group, and I'd never met them personally, but I interact with them on a regular basis. And so I was kind of like, you know what? I am curious to meet these guys. So I will go along out of my respect for them through the interactions I've had. I'd like to go along. And if they're going, then, maybe I've got the wrong idea about this retreat. And so it's funny, I started thinking about like, why does the word retreat trigger this kind of like reaction in me? And it got me thinking to back on the morning of this day, morning of the retreat, when the guys were all meeting, we were meeting at a certain location at 9 a.m. or something. And I can remember at about 7:30, I was in my sports gear, and my wife was like, are you not going on this retreat? And I was like, I'm not so sure. I think I'll ditch it. I think I'll skip it. And she's like, why? And I was just like, I'm so busy with work. I've got so much to do. Really, now's not the time to do this kind of thing. And I was kind of making up all these excuses on the spot. And like, I am very busy, but I was coming up with these excuses in the moment to kind of, drop out of this retreat. And my wife kind of just said, you should probably just go along, maybe it'll be great. Yeah, And so she sort of convinced me that, go along, why not you just do it and see what it is like? And, afterwards you can say it was a mistake if it was a mistake. So sure enough, I went off to this retreat, and I started thinking about it on the way there, driving in the car. I was driving there, I was thinking, like, what is it about the word retreat that is making me reluctant? And it goes back when I was in school. I actually was thinking about this, and I was saying to myself, do you know what? The last time I was invited on a retreat was back when I was in school. And when I was in school, it was organized by our religion teacher. And the religion teacher was a guy that he was probably a lovely man, but he was somebody that as a teenager I clashed with a lot. And I just used to find his mannerisms and all that really irritating and annoying. And of course, teenagers can be kind of pretty brutal. And so I rebelled against this teacher. And I can remember the fact that we were all going on this retreat. I remember kind of like convincing myself that this is all BS, that I'm going to have a crap time, that this is all a load of nonsense, and we're going to all be talking a load of shite. And that was my mindset going to a retreat as a 16-year-old. And sure enough, that was the experience that I had. I showed up as a kind of a brat and thought I was going to have a crappy day. And sure enough, did have a kind of a crappy day, felt that I was wasting my time, all this. And that childhood emotion and that childhood sort of thought has probably subconsciously buried itself at the back of my head. And when I was invited on this retreat, it kind of summoned up that, as in, am I going on some religious retreat? Is this something like associated with those emotions that I had way, way back when I was a kid? Anyway, fast forward to 2 weeks ago, and after my wife has convinced me, look, just go along. The guys have organized it. They're expecting you. And so I said, okay, I'll go. So I show up, And boy, am I glad I did. Like, it was absolutely fantastic. It was actually an adventure retreat. And it started off with a hike. And then we actually had to go swimming in the sea, freezing cold and all that it was. And then after that, there was another hike. And then there was rock climbing in Dalkey Quarry, which I discovered, having never done it before, discovered that I'm actually very good at rock climbing. And I went flying up the thing really, really, really quickly. The guys were all calling me like a mountain goat. And like, I had just such a great time. And then after this, we walked down to, Collymore Harbour, I think it is, in Dalkey. And we got a boat across to Dalkey Island. And Dalkey Island, we had lunch. And that's where we had kind of like conversations about mindset and all this kind of stuff. And I have to say, like, I'm absolutely delighted that I went on it. And it's amazing how your subconscious can convince you that you're going to have a bad time or that you can't afford the time or whatever it is. Anyway, I came back feeling absolutely recharged, like never felt so. My battery's fully recharged, like brimming over. And I realized, like, when you convince yourself that you're so busy that you can't afford the time, that is the moment when you most need to go on something like that, because it just, that breakaway, it kind of gives you this kind of freedom in your mindset. And like, came back the next day full of creativity, feeling great, energized and all that kind of stuff. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Made some great friends, great bunch of guys. And like, those guys are actually, two of them are actually turning the day that we had into a kind of a business. And which I think is a brilliant idea, you know, some sort of a corporate day out where you go and do this kind of thing with a team or something like that. I'll share more details on that when they launch it, because I do think it's the kind of thing that maybe you guys that are listening, if you're here in Ireland anyway, I think you'll certainly, you might like to know more about it. So look, I'm gonna go now back to my event last week, and this is not gonna be a very long podcast, but I wanted to make you have a think about your thoughts, the quality of your thoughts. And one of the exercises I ran last week with my clients, like, we talked about property investing, we talked about all of that kind of stuff, but I took a period of time in the day to go and get into some of the psychology. And I asked a couple of questions, and I thought it was like a great thinking exercise. And I'm going to ask some of these questions, and I'm going to suggest that you guys that are listening have a think about these, and like, rather than listen and just sort of kind of, you know, let it go in and out of your mind, actually stop the podcast and have a think about each question before moving on to the next one. And just think about it for a moment, because the quality of the questions that you ask, they can often determine the quality of the thoughts in your mind and stuff. So one of the questions, I asked a load of questions, but I'm going to pick out just a handful here to kind of go through with you guys. So the first one was, reflecting on the past month, has any part of your life been out of alignment? And by that I mean, like, something that you know needs to change, something that is either unhealthy or unsustainable, or that is eventually going to kind of catch up with you, or something like that. So have a think about that. Like, reflecting on the past month, has any part of your life been out of alignment? That's the first question. And if you're going through this exercise now, hit pause and just have a think about that, and then come back. Next question I asked is, what do you keep doing that you know is not working? Now, we all have something that deep down we know is not working, and yet we continue to do it day in, day out, or week in, week out, or whatever it might be. It might be a habit. It might be a belief. It might be a failed strategy that we continue to kind of like batter our way on and keep on trying to do. And it's just not effective, but we keep on doing it. So why is that? What do I keep doing that I know is not working? Have a think about that. Maybe hit pause and just give it some thought. Now, number 3, I'm going to assume that you're maybe writing these questions down or you're thinking about them, but thinking about what you realized in the previous question about what you keep doing that you know is not working, thinking about the answer that you gave. Now, have a think about, why do you keep continuing to do it? Is there some sort of a reason that you can identify? And a lot of the time, it's like sometimes we just do things automatically without thinking about it, and you kind of get into a habit or into some sort of obsessive compulsive behavior or something like that. You know better, and yet you continue to show up and do it. And so have a think about that. Why do you think you continue to do something that you are aware is not working deep down? Pause there if you want to have a think about that. And then the next question that I asked, does your current reality align with who you are or how you want to be living? And that is kind of a hard-hitting question, because we all have beliefs around our identity. And it's not, if we're not living the way we want to live, why is that? And what would it take for that to change? And this is something that is important to kind of consider, because a lot of the time people will kind of say, yes, well, something happened to me in the past and that's why I'm not living the way I want. Or they might be saying, when some event happens in the future, that's when I'll live the way I would like to live. But the reality is like tomorrow is not promised. So if you're postponing something for the future for some reason, then you need to question the wisdom of that. And so once again, we all have beliefs around our identity. So does your current reality align with who you are? Or are you living in the way that you would like to live? And those are the questions that I asked, plus a couple more. But that's what I'm going to leave you guys with. Remember, the quality of your thoughts, the quality of the questions you ask yourself often determines the quality of your life. And so guys, short one this week. Hope you found that one thought-provoking. And if so, if you want to leave me a message over on LinkedIn or something like that, I'd be happy to hear from you. I'll see you next week. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Facade. If you enjoyed the show or found it in any way useful, could I please ask you to take a moment to leave a review over on iTunes or Spotify? This really helps us get the podcast out in front of more people. If you have any questions or topics you would like me to cover in future episodes, please connect with me via my brand new school community. You will find a link in the show notes. You can stay up to date with all of my content and the projects I'm working on by signing up for my weekly newsletter over on my website, gavinjgallagher.com. That's all for now. See you back here, same time next week.